In the 23rd episode of the American Reveille podcast, James Lane exposes the chess game that President Trump's enemies are playing with the American people. The Democrats and the Socialists are on two different sides of the coin, yet they must work together to defeat the president in November. There's one itsy-bitsy problem, though. The Democrats have lost control of their brainwashed shock troops. These anti-American and socialist mercenaries have gone beyond what Democrats ever imagined, and in an attempt to appease the socialist mob and bring some glimmer of hope for a Biden victory in November, Crazy Joe himself has aligned with the likes of Bolshevik Bernie Sanders and his personal bartender, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to bridge the gap and attempt to fool an entire country. Meanwhile, while rioters terrorize Portland, Seattle, and other major cities, the United Nations attacks the president only to expose a possible bombshell that could lead to the collapse of the entire Democratic Party itself. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start the show. Hello, this is the super excellent, totally awesome American Reveille podcast. Good day, comrades. Hey everybody, this is James Lane, and I'm just practicing for the next chapter of American history. If we don't get up off our asses and start using our God-given First Amendment rights, you see, I have to somehow make everyone understand that the Founding Fathers believed that we are literally born onto this planet, naked and crying, covered in fluid, yet endowed by whatever higher power you believe in with the unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So what does this mean? This means that the government's job is to protect us citizens. That's the bargain, the entire agreement between the creatures that inhabit the tribe and the tribal leaders. And yes, I'm referring to everyone as creatures because the left is obviously proving how Smeagol-esque they can be when they want their precious back. What is this precious I'm talking about, though? What is it the Democrats covet so much? Well, I think you all know. It's power, of course. They want to keep running the same Ponzi scheme they've been running on the poor people in this country for decades and decades and decades. The socialist uprising isn't entirely connected to the Democratic Party per se, as much as the Democrats believe that they can use these groups as a tool or a vessel to regain power and control. I really wasn't kidding a few episodes ago when I compared this stuff to Game of Thrones, guys. Anyway, what they aren't recognizing is that their little attack dog, their little chihuahua on a chain, has grown into a multi-headed Cerberus, an out-of-control, mob-minded Frankenstein's monster, maliciously destroying and devouring everything and anything in its path. Do you want to know the truth, ladies and gentlemen? Because I've figured it out. And if you're still listening to me, I will assume that you would like to know. Here it is. At first, the Pelosi's and the Schumers, the Bidens, the Obamas of this world, they believed that the riots would help push them into a winning position on the chessboard. And it appeared for a little while like it would. So they put out the message to stand down and basically let cities burn. And you know what happened? The dog got off the leash, and now they're all panicking so much that they've aligned themselves with Bolshevik Bernie and his little sidekick AOC, Queen of the Thunderdome, at least in her wildest and most hallucinogen-inspired socialist utopian daydreams and fantasies. And by the way, folks, AOC's diary must be absolutely terrifying. You must get PTSD immediately from reading AOC's diary. I feel bad for her partner. I guess that's what he'd like to be called. Anyway, let's go back to the government, guaranteeing everyone that in exchange for tax dollars, they will protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness while providing essential services. That's basic old school libertarianism for anyone who doesn't know and wants the short version. So we need to define these further, and we need to start with the guarantee of life. So life, folks, life is the right to be born, and not have your safety threatened. The God-given right to feel safe, walk into the corner store to buy a Monster and a hot dog, okay? Good? Easy enough? All right, guys. Next, liberty, which is being free within a society and being able to express our views and our opinions without the worry of persecution, oppression, arrest, or detrimental consequence, like losing your job, for example. If I say the phrase "all lives matter" and I get fired and persecuted on false pretenses, the government is failing at that point at protecting my God-given liberties. The most important one to me, though, is the third one I mentioned, and it's the pursuit of happiness, which is something most people are failing at right now in their everyday lives. And it isn't because our system is crap, like the left would like you to believe. Our system isn't crap. In fact, our system is the best system in the entire world. The facts, the statistics are proven. The problem is that the power-hungry government leaders over the past few decades have increased their self-interest-based policies to a level which allowed cracks to form in the foundations of our systems, and socialist sludge ideologies slithered and crept their way in. Something socialism is really infamous for, whispering in the ear of societies that there's a much better way. And just as Coraline learned when she unlocked the mysterious keyhole and crawled through the tiny passageway in her home to a bizarro world of doll faces with smiles and bad intentions, the grass, my friends, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So the pursuit of happiness, folks, it means that all of us, all Americans, as proclaimed by our country's highest doctrine, are born with the God-given right to live how you would like, how you would want, and to find whatever it is in life that would bring you joy. This means that if I woke up tomorrow and decided that I wanted to craft statues of President Trump dressed as Batman beating the hell out of George Soros with a steel chair, and it didn't hurt anybody or cause them not to be able to eat or live their own life in their own way, then no one is able to stop me. That's the promise. That's the agreement between the people and this government since its true founding in 1776. Now, I started the episode like this because the haters need a history lesson, and the patriots on the right side of history could always use a refresher, but this is leading to something, and it's a setup for a bigger picture that I need to present to everyone this glorious Monday, July 27th. You see, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is under attack, full force from all sides. And the weird thing is that while some of these sides seem to be working together, the others seem to be autonomous of one another and even sort of using each other from time to time to gain something, regardless of who is doing what we all know. Something very fishy is going on, and it's not my Filipino wife cooking with fermented fish sauce this time, though a lot of the time that's what smells fishy in my house. Here's how I know the Democrats aren't entirely connected to Black Lives Matter and Antifa. When you press Democrat leadership about riots, they pretend it's a hoax by the president. Look, we all know about the stories of the different mayors downplaying it and the different politicians downplaying it, but let's dig in a little bit. This is from Ryan Saavedra, and I hope I said that right. It's from the Daily Wire on Sunday. Quote, top Democrat Jerry Nadler, we all remember him from previous times like the BS impeachment. But anyway, Jerry Nadler of New York, violent Antifa riots in Portland are a, quote, myth. Quote, Democrat House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler claimed without evidence on Sunday that the violent Antifa riots in Portland were a myth. Nadler's remarks directly contradict video evidence that is widely available on social media and contradict the Department of Homeland Security says is happening in Portland. We've seen this guy lie before on public television, so it's really not unfamiliar to us. But anyway, let's continue. The violent situation in Portland has witnessed for the past 8 weeks continues with violent anarchists rioting in the streets as federal law enforcement officers work diligently and honorably to enforce federal law, defend federal property, and protect the lives of their fellow officers, DHS said in a statement on Sunday, which is very different than the narrative on the other news stations. But anyway, as federal officers left the courthouse to respond to attacks on the fence, just like on the previous nights, they were met by rioters with hard projectiles, mortar-style fireworks, and lasers that can cause permanent blindness. And over the past 24 hours, such assaults have resulted in at least 14 federal officers injured. Nadler was approached by journalist Austin Fletcher and asked if he disavowed the violent riots. It's true. There's violence across the whole country, Fletcher said. Do you disavow the violence from Antifa that's happening in Portland right now? There's riots. That's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C., Nadler claimed without any evidence. About Antifa in Portland? Fletcher pressed it. Yes, Nadler once again claimed without any evidence a person with Nadler, presumably an aide, rushed in to get Nadler away from the camera and took him to a car nearby. Sir, there's videos everywhere online, Fletcher said as Nadler walked away. There's fires and riots. They're throwing fireworks at federal officers. DHS is there. Look online. It gets crazy, Mr. Nadler. Ladies and gentlemen, what that's called right there, it's called denial. And it's not just a river in Egypt. That's absolute denial. That's what people do when they're paralyzed by fear and don't know how to react without damaging something. Complete denial. Folks, this isn't a fight between Trump and Democrats as much as this is a fight between Trump and socialist infiltrators that are rolling through this country's major Democrat cities like drunken Tasmanian devils hell-bent on calamity of the highest order. It's very confusing to watch our friends and families cheer for what looks like scenes out of the movie Braveheart, like a magic spell's been cast upon them, like they're spellbound to some socialist cause without even realizing it or knowing what it's about. It's so frustrating. And now, folks, now it's deadly. Now it's violent. Now it's out of control, and it's treasonous military action on the part of brainwashed fools that have no idea what's coming for them. They're killing and maiming police officers and citizens across the United States. Our moms, our dads, our brothers, our sisters, our uncles, our cousins, our police officers. The only thing protecting us from our cities becoming crime-filled slums akin to post-apocalyptic Judge Dredd movies, and the Democrats thinks it's a hoax. The United Nations came out the other day, folks, to basically put pressure on President Trump while pushing some crazy narrative to the world, like the U.S. is bad. The UN itself is on board with pretending that socialists aren't invading this country in a culture war of ideologies. At the very least, there's thousands and thousands of propaganda articles pumping and coursing and pulsing throughout the internet, condemning Trump and literally blanketing away the positive articles so that you can barely find any. This is brainwashing, folks. It's manipulation, and reasonable, law-abiding citizens are going absolutely insane. The silent majority you hear about, that's us, and that's precisely what they want. They just don't realize the consequences. They want to get you to a point where you're so exasperated that you'll give in to anything just to make it stop. This is the plan from both the Democrats and the extremists in Black Lives Matter and Antifa. It's an old school, ancient strategy. Defeat the culture, break the spirit, take the power. One of the oldest tricks in the books, guys. Here's my thing. At some point, I personally feel like they both realized they couldn't do it separately. The right was just too strong, too powerful, and capitalism in all of its proven glory and magnificence would have defeated either of them separately. But maybe, just maybe, by working together, maybe they could defeat the outsider, the man trying to restore this country to glory regardless of his flaws and in the face of tyranny itself in the form of these serpent-like people and slimy organizations. So if you think about it, You can easily imagine this alliance appeasing the extremists temporarily if Biden's elected, presenting the illusion of peace to the world. Bernie and AOC in Biden's ear mean it's only a matter of time before the union crumbles and it's replaced by a socialist system of control. And we all know this, as things have never gone this far from the center. That magnet pulling people who received an extra $600 a check from unemployment benefits can easily be seen and explained by teachers in Democratic states protesting against returning back to school in fear of COVID-19 exposure. And by the way, folks, a news report came out a couple hours ago that was saying, I believe, and don't quote me, but it was about 13 of 19 of the people arrested in Portland for rioting yesterday were school teachers from Portland. What's that say about wanting to go back to school or not, or COVID affecting our children? I think it's more about getting extra money and sitting on some ass. But anyway, look, this isn't real. This is imagined. Yes, we need to be cautious. We need to know that teachers in most Democratic states are underpaid. We get it. But the money that's supposed to pay them goes to all these different places and goes to all of these liberal agendas that are lining pockets and lining our children's brains with muck. It's lining their brains with socialist ideology instead of pro-American ideology. And there's nothing wrong with being proud of this country and being proud of our history, the good and the bad. Yes, we should know about our bad history so that we never repeat it, so that we learn from it, so that we live up to the idea that this country can be made perfect as we go along. We strive towards this perfection. We bring this equality closer and closer to each other as the years go on. We improve it. That's what our documents are made to do. That's what the Constitution's made to do. That's what the United States is made to do. But those teachers that were just arrested, those teachers that don't want to go back to school out of fear for COVID, fear for the children, they weren't teaching our children anyway. They were just dealing with those children, with our children. And I say dealing because apparently they weren't teaching them at all. They were indoctrinating them with Mao and Marx and all kinds of other horrible socialist concepts. So if the socialists can keep money pumping to the public while they stay locked on their couch for long enough, it's like conditioning mice in a laboratory. Eventually, most people will become complacent and compliant, and the government can just decide what freedom would be for you until, of course, historically, and get this, folks, this is where it gets fun, people realize that they're even more unhappy than they were before. And you know what they want at that point? They want their freedom back. And that never works for the socialists. So they go, how can we try to make this right and quell the people? So they balance everything at a state level, and that doesn't really work. So they have to squash the uprisings. I mean, how else will they portray that their system works to the rest of the world? By quickly regaining control, of course. So basically, the narrative that the media is spinning against Trump, the BS claim that he's sending in the Gestapo to arrest people and black bag them, that actually happens in this scenario in the future. Still, it's the socialists that end up doing it to the people who want to return to capitalism in the long run. We're not doing that right now. They're claiming it's being done, but it actually isn't. But if socialism takes over and people get unsatisfied and start to rebel against socialism, it will quickly turn into communism, and they will quickly squash the people. It becomes a rebellion, a legitimate rebellion against repression, a rebellion against socialism, sucking the life force out of everyone and everything, causing true loss of purpose and true equality. But not the kind of equality that we all want. We're talking about equality in pain, equality in suffering, equality in misery, and ultimately genocide. That's what AOC is calling for. That's what Bernie Sanders is calling for. Eventual genocide in the United States. If the socialists win, this whole thing will switch sides, and we will unintentionally fulfill their delusional prophecy for them. You see, this is where communism has to take over to keep everything kosher, guys. This is where America basically goes down the shitter like Venezuela, and it will be a reality if we don't begin resisting the left with our First Amendment rights, just like physical therapy. This is how I'm going to explain it. Just like physical therapy, when you hurt your knee or you get a surgery and they make you stretch and do the bicycle and you bitch and moan about how painful it is when you start stretching it out after you're healing a little bit. What do they tell you? What do they tell us? They say, if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you that if we don't use our rights, if we don't use our First Amendment, our God-given rights, we're going to have to lose them. That's what they want, at least. Plain and simple, this is rapidly happening, not just in our country, but around the world. We are under attack from all sides. Whether you see it or not, trust me, it's happening right now. So look, guys, chew on that for a minute, folks, because we're going to take a quick break so that you can hear a minute of shameless advertising presented to you by the sponsor of the show. And who's that, you may ask? Me. Every bit of this show, this platform, this company has all been built with my own investment and entrepreneurial spirit for the righteous quest on uniting the right. All right? Bringing together everyone from the classic libertarian to the staunchest of conservatives on a mission to put our differences aside for the salvation of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm James Lane. This is the American Reveille Podcast, and we will be right back.
Podcast with James Lane would like to take a moment to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to tune into the show. It's because of great fans like you that we strive to deliver the best quality content one can create as fast as one can fling the pen. With that being said, a good little boy never misses his opportunity to sell himself, and though James would never ask you for your money, he would like to let you know that if you absolutely love this podcast, the writing, the art, its production, anything, please do us the personal favor of liking, sharing, tweeting, texting, and talking about this podcast. James Lane is a father, a husband, a U.S. Navy veteran, and is personally committed to the success of the American Reveille Podcast. Please email James Lane directly at podcast@AmericanReveille.com, or please visit our website at www.AmericanReveille.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Folks, we are back, and we were talking about the UN calling out Trump for Portland and riot suppression tactics with absolutely no proof of any misdoing by the government whatsoever, which is literally a gigantic dog and pony show from the UN, a considerable display of smoke and mirror snake oil salesmanship meant to distract the masses, and they're doing an incredible job, as you can tell by just looking around you wherever you are. It's like the movie They Live with Roddy Piper back in the day, where he had those special sunglasses that let him see a bunch of people were actually aliens. That's really what it feels like. If, for example, Trump came out and was like, well, it turns out a bunch of people have actually been replaced by pod people, which is not fantastic. This is a horrible Trump impression. But anyway, I might believe him with all of the craziness we've been through in 2020. We have major news publications now saying the government's about to tell us about craft not of this world, so I may get to actually do the Independence Day speech at some point, apparently. Regardless, it's more likely that we have an opportunist movement of socialist infiltrators that found a different way in over the past few decades. Social media and our school systems. But before we get back to that, let's talk a little more about the United Nations, a little bit, and a theory I have as to why they're attacking Trump. So Trump's running as the law and order president, and I think he's truly at a point where he may be doing something huge before the election, which I can't tell you the extent because I don't know, but I'm not saying that I expect certain characters to all be affected. At the same time, I think that Trump really is in the process, and I know this sounds a little crazy, but I think he's in the process of draining the swamp. I mean, we're just not aware of it yet on a mass public scale, but all of the evidence really points to something huge coming. So while we're all being distracted by this other stuff, you have Ghislaine, how do you say her name? Ghislaine, I guess Ghislaine Maxwell. We'll just stick with Ghislaine for now. Ghislaine Maxwell and a list of key people that will be released to the world in a few days. You see, many, many, many influential people have something to lose while all this is going on. And I'm not saying that everything's related, but other political figures would have never dared dabble in such a complicated endeavor as possibly breaking the world free from international child trafficking and pedophilia. With that being said, look, let's refer to the New York Post. Let's try and get some actual sources on this and talk about it a little bit. There's a story called "Who's Afraid of Ghislaine Maxwell? Everyone on the List." This is from Dana Kennedy. All right, guys, and it's going to list most of the people that they actually know about that are probably on this list that's been released by a judge that's about to come out. So let's dive right in. Quote, "It's the top 10 list no one wants to be on. Moments after the feds busted Ghislaine Maxwell Thursday for allegedly roping in underage girls for pal Jeffrey Epstein's perverted pleasure, fireworks started going off in the lives of certain billionaires and playboys who palled around with the two. Since no one was closer to the multimillionaire pedophile than Maxwell, whose network stretched from New York to France, Israel, Buckingham Palace, and the Caribbean, those in the know are undoubtedly fretting over the dirt she could dish to keep herself out of jail, particularly after prosecutors vowed to bring justice to the other potential enablers of Epstein's sex abuse and trafficking. A friend, TV host Christopher Mason, said he believes she had access to videotapes from all of Epstein's properties and the footage has gone missing. Oh, man. I bet she has some kind of secret recording system like Nixon had in the White House back in the day, but with all kinds of videos. I wonder what kind of horrible things are going to come out in this case. But anyway, let's get back to the story. "I'm sure she has access to all the videos," Mason said. "A lot of powerful people should be more than a little worried. So who among Epstein's infamous black book will need a good lawyer if G-Max, the alias Maxwell used when moving money around, starts singing?" At the top of the list are the usual scandal magnates: Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Alan Dershowitz. They all hung around with Epstein, but each has a history of slithering out of jams. Other Epstein associates with less experience in the hot seat might start to squirm, though. Billionaire hedge fund owner Glenn Dubin, for example, who is one half of an accomplished Manhattan super couple, his striking wife, Dr. Eva Anderson Dubin, founded the Dubin Breast Center of the Tisch Cancer Institute, at the Mount Sinai Medical Center. They have 3 children and live a life of glossy luxury, all private chefs and private jets with homes in Palm Beach, Westchester County, Sweden, and a ranch in Gunnison, Colorado. But Dubin's friendship with Epstein and Maxwell ran deep. His wife dated Epstein for a few years before she married Dubin in 1994, and Anderson Dubin stuck up for the perv predator after his 2008 conviction on prostitution charges, saying she was 100% comfortable with Jeffrey Epstein around my children, who were minors at the time. That's pretty gross. So anyway, the Dubins flatly deny assertions by sex abuse victim Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who in a 2016 deposition claimed Maxwell sent her to have sex with Dubin after her, quote, training. That's gross, too. That's scary, actually. There's also the beautiful high-flying countess whose investigators reportedly want to question in the wake of Maxwell's arrest. Claire Hazel, now known as the Countess of Eveg, was once just how do you become a countess, by the way, in 2020? I guess this really is like Game of Thrones, because now we have countesses. But anyway, the Countess of Eveg was once just a regular under-the-radar Ohio State University student, albeit with tuition reportedly paid by Epstein. Then she married Edward Guinness of the famed brewing family in 2001. Hazel, 44, could be one could be of interest to prosecutors because she worked for Epstein in the 90s and flew on his Lolita Express jet at least 32 times between 1998 and 2000. She could have witnessed Maxwell's dealings with other wealthy pals, Larry Summers, Sheryl Sandberg's one-time mentor, and the former Harvard president. Helped bolster Epstein's reputation. Former Harvard president, huh? I wonder how socialism's getting in these Ivy League schools. Helped bolster Epstein's reputation, taking $30 million from the multimillionaire to create Harvard's Epstein program for mathematical biology and evolutionary dynamics, according to Slate. Epstein reportedly only agreed to have his name attached after being persuaded by Summers himself. Summers appeared in Lolita Express flight logs, and Epstein's private charity funded a nonprofit that produces a TV show hosted by Summers' wife, the Daily Beast reported last year. Married politician Ehud Barak, 77, the former prime minister of Israel, current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu beat back seemingly every accusation and political challenge, while Barak's ties to Epstein dog him constantly. Barak found himself targeted by Netanyahu, who has tweeted articles and photographs of Barak exiting Epstein's townhouse in 2016. That's freaky. So we're talking about world leaders here, guys. We're talking about world leaders. UN-affiliated world leaders possibly attached to unsealed documentation that's about to come out in the next week or so that's literally possibly going to incriminate them into a international child sex scandal. Anyway, let's keep reading. He once said he met Epstein more than 10 times and much less than 100 times, but I can't remember. I can't tell you exactly how many. I don't keep count. Over the years, I've seen him on occasion. That sounds iffy. Barak admitted that he visited Epstein at 2 of his New York homes and flew to Epstein's notorious pedophile island hideaway once. It's only once, right? Though he denied participating in any sex parties or orgies at the swanky retreat. What, did he just watch? Anyway, Leslie Wexner, the billionaire owner of Victoria's Secret, has never been charged with anything. But one has to wonder why the Titan would reportedly hire Epstein, who was then little more than a glorified former high school math teacher with just a few years on Wall Street as his financial advisor in 1987. Then give him power of attorney over his fortune. This is really strange and deep stuff, guys. It's a weird relationship. A Wall Streeter who reportedly knew Epstein told New York Magazine at the time, it's just not typical for someone of such enormous wealth to all of a sudden give his money to some guy that most people have never even heard of. To his credit, though, Wexner pulled the plug on their connection in 2007, saying, I would have not continued to work with any individual capable of such egregious, sickening behavior as has been reported about him. A representative for Wexner called the Post after a reporter left messages regarding his client's ties to Epstein, but declined to comment further. He was smoother than some reps for bold-faced names who sounded uncharacteristically desperate when reached by the Post, alternately threatening legal action and begging not to be mentioned in print. That's very strange, huh? Former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, 72, and former U.S. Senator George Mitchell, 86, probably never envisioned being part of a sex scandal so late in their lives and careers. And by the way, guys, everyone that I've been mentioning is a Democrat, at least every American in the story. So in Mitchell's case, the irony was supreme. He was known for overseeing the Philadelphia Archdiocese compensation fund for victims of clergy sex abuse in 2018. Richardson would rather be remembered for pushing through the world's first purpose-built spaceport when he was government. Now the two are doing all they can to distance themselves from Epstein, especially after the arrest Thursday of Maxwell in the tiny town of Bradford, New Hampshire, where she was living in a luxurious multi-million-dollar hideaway in the woods. That's nice. On the run in style, huh? Both have denied claims by Giuffre that she was instructed by Epstein and Maxwell to have sex with them, including one incident in which she said she gave Mitchell a sexual massage at Epstein's mansion in Palm Beach, where her, quote, body was put on the banquet menu. I have daughters. This is so freaking disturbing and hard to read, guys. Quote, I've never met, spoken with, or had any contact with Miss Giuffre, Mitchell told Fox News last summer. And in my contacts with Mr. Epstein, I never observed or suspected any inappropriate conduct with underage girls. I only learned of his actions when they were reported in the media related to his prosecution in Florida. We've had no further contact, quote. Richardson, too, was swift to issue a forceful rebuttal last summer, saying he only had limited interactions with Epstein and never in the presence of young or underage girls. He also denied ever having been on Pedophile Island or meeting Giuffre. All right, listen to me, folks. This is some crazy stuff, and there's a lot more people that are just listed as John Does and just not talked about in some of this paperwork, and names are going to drop and all kinds of craziness is going to go down. I really believe that's going to be coming up at some point. All right, so I know that was a long-winded article, but you have to understand that many people are just not informed, nor are they aware that multiple historical events are happening at the same time. Guys, you have Trump, who's been branded the bad guy, even though he's actually the good guy, and it was done through social media and cultural manipulation. You have a worldwide, possibly engineered pandemic emanating from socialist China. You have a socialist attack happening across the country. You have a Chinese spy operation being busted in Houston, and even San Francisco had the spy, or had a spy, hiding in the consulate. And yes, she will turn out to be a spy. You'll see. I'm predicting it right now. Look, guys, right now, people are on information overload, and it's the perfect time for powerful entities to pull the wool over your heads. So wake up, everyone. This is our country, not theirs. Every single socialist movement claims that they'll get it right, and that thought process, that system, has attributed to over 100 million deaths in this world in modern history, not ancient history, modern history, the last 100 years. There's no need to try it again because it doesn't work. It's proven that it doesn't work. And in fact, it's so proven that the socialists have to redefine actual words in our dictionary to manipulate us to a point where hopefully people let them try it again so that we can all end up in internment camps bartering with Bang energy drinks and Four Locos for food and cigarettes. But oh wait, this will be a Green New Deal socialist utopia. So it'll be all the shittiness of what I mentioned, but with absolutely no vices. So no cigarettes or alcohol, nothing but weed and kombucha. So basically the movie Demolition Man. So you better figure out how to use the 3 seashells, guys, and forget how to cuss before they throw you in the gulag. Look, in all seriousness, there's enough evidence to assume that very powerful world leaders are very pissed off at Trump and working the American people against him because he could possibly, and I'm not saying he is, but he still could possibly be about to truly drain the swamp, not just from the U.S., but from the world, like he said he would, or at the very least put away a few key people who may have influence and sway within the United Nations. Look, we need people to follow the money so that we can find out who has what to lose. I think in the next few weeks and months leading up to the election, the president's going to have more than a few aces up his sleeve. And in fact, I know that he's going to overcome the left and sweep the election and overwhelmingly win. That's not a guess. That's not because I like him. It's because I looked at all of the possible avenues of strategy. And there's no other option besides him winning if the Democrats keep going down this path that they're going. I mentioned in an article I published, and I showed graphs and statistics, by the way. I demonstrated that the silent majority is real and about to tear down the Democratic Party. I showed why they are actually shaking in their boots right now, terrified of November. I really, really think, in fact, I know the Democratic Party could actually collapse after we win. But anyway, we'll get back to that in a second. Look, here's the thing. With all of these different interests attempting to mess with our elections and control our hearts and minds, they didn't count on their strategies and tactics overlapping, unintentionally sabotaging one another. Haven't you noticed that when one group does one thing and it overlaps with another, they unintentionally expose the belly of the serpent? I mean, come on. We all saw the protesters in Chicago marching with shields and banners and a phalanx and attacking cops with projectiles. We have seen the maiming of officers in Portland, and we watched a black man get stabbed in Portland a day ago on YouTube. You see, the same vessel that spread the idea of socialism recently around at such lightning speed and gave the people the idea that they could try it again? That thing called the internet, that thing called social media? Well, guess what? It's now working against them and spreading the counter movement to their bogus socialist crap itself. Look, guys, their vessel is now infected. It's infected with traditional ideas again, with conservative values, and it's only a matter of time before those ideas massively grow and multiply and spread around, and all of the radical left collapses. And the pendulum swings gloriously back towards conservatism to balance the scales in the right direction. At least that's what has to happen if we don't want another civil war. There are white ghettos, there are black ghettos in the United States, there are Latin ghettos here, there are homeless camps here. It isn't about color at all, guys. This is about haves and have-nots. That's what socialism is always about, which can easily be manipulated in this country into a race war, especially when we forget our history. This is a weakness being exploited by enemies like China, guys. It's obvious who would attack that area of our society because it becomes militaristic in its strategic nature. It's not something that we are doing, as we're equal and united throughout this country, and we love each other in our communities regardless of race, religion, or orientation. This is manipulation from propaganda, and our reaction falls in line with history, especially with the mistakes of history right now. Plain and simple, folks. If capitalism falls and socialism wins, then our way of life is over and millions and millions and millions will suffer. I came across multiple articles linking some of these figures to Satanism as well, but nothing's really confirmed. I'll do some more research. But either way, here's how the cards fall in November. If the Democrats can't get their dog back on the leash and they can't reel in Black Lives Matter and Antifa, then the Democrats are doomed. And again, they could lose so badly that the Democratic Party itself crumbles as the radical left implodes and possibly attacks. In what way, you ask? We'll have to keep paying attention and making sure we're doing what is necessary to take care of our families while exercising our First Amendment rights as loud and proud as we possibly can, never backing down or apologizing for something we did not do. Maybe Soros goes down this year, who knows? I guess we'll have to see as time goes on. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the 23rd episode of the American Reveille podcast, and I hope you subscribe, and I need you to leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. I really need help with these ratings and reviews, as it'll really help get this show out to a much larger crowd. So please, please, please take the time to check us out as well on www.americanreveille.com, and send me any feedback you have at jameslane@americanreveille.com. And folks, please don't forget to spread the word about this podcast and the American Reveille movement itself throughout all of the cracks, crevices, and sewer pipes that run across the world of social media in this great country. Let's kick the tires and light the fires. Ladies and gentlemen, have a killer kick-ass day. Peace out.